Hello, my name is Stephen Clyde Myers, and don't confuse me with other Stephen Myerses. There's a number of Stephen Myerses running around. I think there's even one in a movie, but it's not me. There's a Stephen Meyer with the Discovery Institute. And there's other Stephen Myers with doctor's degrees in different areas. But mine is a doctor of theology. Most of my studies have been Old Testament studies, though I took a lot of Greek as well. And I want to tell you my story from being a young Earth creationist, an enthusiastic creationist, to an old Earth evolutionist. And I will go through and tell you how that came about. First, I want to start out that I was born in Cleveland, Ohio in 1955. So right now I am 70 years old. I was raised by wonderful, loving parents. And here's some views of the Cleveland in the 1950s, where it was called the greatest location of the nation. Which might be quite debatable now. I was raised in a fundamentalist Baptist church, a GARB church, which means it stands for General Association of Regular Baptist Churches. We'd go to church every Sunday morning, every evening, and Wednesday night prayer meeting, and other meetings as well. And we had to be separate from the world. And it's based on 2 Corinthians 6:17. Wherefore come out from among them and be ye separate, saith the Lord. So that's what we need to be as a fundamentalist. One of the strict fundamentalists, be separate. That meant no dancing, no going to movies, no drinking, no smoking, no swearing, no rock music. And you dressed very conservatively. I'm very thankful I was raised that way because I didn't get involved in smoking. I didn't get involved in drinking or drugs because of my parents' good example. And this is the church I went to there in Cleveland. When I was 8 years old, on Easter Sunday, I asked Jesus to come into my heart and wash away my sins, and that day I was saved. My other interest was in space. There was the great space race. This was during the 1960s to go to the moon. And I would pray that the Russians always seemed to be one step ahead of the U.S., and I prayed that the U.S. would get to the moon first. I even built a space center in the basement with a spaceship. In 1969, we stayed up late to watch Neil Armstrong walk on the moon. My favorite book series was Tom Swift about outer space. My other interest was in dinosaurs. But how does science and the Bible connect? Well, I came across a book on Bible and science and was amazed to find out that the Bible is scientific, even ahead of its time. There were two key verses that I remember, and one's Isaiah 40, verse 22. It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers. This shows that the earth is a sphere, but in ancient times they thought it was a flat earth. Job 26:7, it says, he stretches out the earth, stretches out the north over the empty place, and hangeth the earth upon nothing. In ancient times, they thought the earth was supported by pillars, or with the Greeks, Atlas held up the earth. The Bible was scientifically accurate. I was hooked on Bible and science. I became a young Earth creationist, and Dr. Henry Morris was my hero. In high school, I would talk to a student who was a Jehovah's Witness, and I would witness to him, and he would witness to me, and he said that Jesus was a God, but not the God, because there was no definite article in the Greek before God. And you can see it here, theos, God, no article, just and God was the Logos, or Word. And I didn't know the answer since I didn't know Greek. This made me want to go to Bible college and learn Hebrew and Greek so I know what the Bible says in the original languages. And that's what I did in 1972. And then I went on to seminary where I took a course in Isaiah in 1978. And I picked the topic of astronomy in Isaiah to do my research paper. And I concentrated on the word circle of the earth in Isaiah 40 verse 22. And here we can see it over here. It is he that dwelleth upon the hug of the haaretz, the earth, the circle of the earth. And here's my original paper there. I had to do all hand typing on an old-fashioned typewriter. There was no computer that I could use. I guess they were just starting out. But I had to type everything out in 1978. And this is was very interesting to me about this, the circle. And here are the other verses where the hug, which means a circle. We have the circle of the earth in Isaiah 40:22. We have the circle of the heavens in Job 22:14. We have the circle of the seas in Job 26:10. And the circle of the winds in Ecclesiastes 1:6. And these all use the Hebrew word hug, circle. The rest of Isaiah 40:22b, it says, that stretcheth out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in. This shows that the heavens are stretched out or expanding. And sure enough, the scientist tells us that the heavens, the universe is expanding. And I thought, wow, this is another amazing truth in the Bible. Now, this also tells us that the earth is also stretched out. In Isaiah 42:5, thus saith the Lord, the God the Lord, he hath created the heavens and stretched them out. He has spread forth the earth. And sure enough, the scientists tell us about plate tectonics, that the earth is spreading out, especially in the Atlantic Ocean there. And then they clash together, and that's when you get the earthquakes. And so another amazing truth I thought of was there in Isaiah. The earth is being stretched out. The heavens are being expanded. Amazing truths. I presented this in my paper to my Hebrew professor in the class, and I thought I discovered all these amazing truths, but my Hebrew professor was not that impressed about it. As I researched more on hug in 1981, I discovered that the Hebrew word hug mostly likely does not mean sphere, but arch or dome. And most modern translations there in Isaiah 40:22 translate it as dome, referring to the shape of the heavens, not the earth. It is he that sitteth upon the dome of the earth, and the inhabitants look like grasshoppers. For if he's just sitting on the earth, we don't look like grasshoppers. I wanted to study this more, so I looked at other ancient writings to see if these phrases were different or similar. Were these amazing truths that only the Bible has? And I took some courses at another school in 1982 and just searched Greek text and found that a number of these biblical phrases are also found in ancient Greek text. Here on the right here we have the ancient Babylonian map of the world around 500 BC. which shows the earth as a circle surrounded by the circle of the sea. And this is what they thought back in ancient times. So these were not ancient, these were just not ancient, amazing texts in the Bible of scientific truths, but these were common phrases used in ancient times. So here we have, I think it's talking about in Isaiah 40:22, the dome of the earth, the firmament in Genesis 1, and it was firm, it was solid. They believed there in Exodus 24:10 that it was made out of lapis lazuli. In the King James it says sapphire, but sapphire in ancient times referred to beautiful blue stone of lapis lazuli, which they thought made up the firmament, and God would be on his throne, and the floor was the firmament made out of lapis lazuli. And Ezekiel, the firmament seems to be made out of crystal in chapter 1, verse 22, and also in Josephus's Antiquities of the Jews, made of solid crystal. And I guess when it melts, water rains. Of course, you have other texts where the clouds come down and pick up the water from the ocean and then drop it on the earth. Then it also says that there are pillars or mountains that hold up the heavens in Job 26:11. And then you have the pillars of the earth which go all the way under the earth, holding up the earth in Job chapter 9, verse 6. And the earth is spread out over this great deep or nothingness. So in Job 26:7, he hangeth the earth upon nothing. Morris says, this is Henry Morris, the earth is suspended in space, not supported on pillars. Yet there are several verses that talk about the pillars of the earth. In Job chapter 9 and Psalm 75. And the pillars of the heaven in Job 26:11. I think Job 26:11 is poetically describing the earth being spread out over the deep. That's mentioned in Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. This void or deep. The heavens are stretched out over the void. The earth is spread out, covering the void. In Enumel Elish, it says the great structure Iahera, which is the earth, which he made as a canopy over the deep, the watery deep. And the earth is seen here as a canopy that's stretched out over the ocean. And Shamus hymn says, you, Shamus is the sun god, climbed to the mountain surveying the earth, you suspended from the heavens the circle of the lands. These are just common phrases that were used in the ancient world. And one should not read modern science back into them. That's many today do. That's what they do, is they try to read modern science back into them. Another example is in the Psalms. It mentions the 10-stringed harps, and so some claim this means that there's 10 strings, string theory, that make up the universe. Which is totally absurd. It has nothing to do with the harps there with 10 strings. But many try to read modern science back into these phrases. And the Babylonian myth of Marduk, he cuts Tiamat, the monster, in two halves. And he stretches the one skin to form the sky, the firmament, and the other one he spreads out over the deep and forms the earth as a covering over the deep. So these are just ancient phrases here. So the ancient writers of the Hebrew Bible were using common descriptions of the ancient world, not amazing scientific truths. I went to Philadelphia to attend Westminster Theological Seminary, where I received my Master of Theology degree, and my thesis was entitled A Biblical Cosmogony, where I go into detail about these phrases. Now, other religions try to do the same thing that Young-Earth Creationists do. For example, the Qumran, the Quran, claims amazing scientific truths in their Quran. And I wrote a book, Insights into Islam, pointing out the problems with Islam, the problems in the Quran, where there are a number of scientific errors in the Quran. And they're just trying to read modern science back into some of these ancient phrases, as Young-Earth Creationists had done. And my book tries to point out these problems. And I'll put a link to that. The Bible is just scientifically wrong when looking at science. The Bible is not a science book. We should not use it as a science book. The Bible is a spiritual book, not a science book. Now, when I came to Philadelphia to go to Westminster, I ran into Old Earth Creationist. And I didn't know there was any. I thought there was Young-Earth Creationist. And I didn't know that there could be Christians that believed in an old earth. And there was one seminar called Dice or Deity. This is going on Einstein's phrase, does God play dice with the universe? And they believed in a day-age theory of Genesis 1, where the days are long periods of time. And even there in 2 Peter, the day of the Lord is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years of one day. And then Hugh Ross, he's an Old Earth Creationist, and he founded Reasons to Believe. And then there's ASA, the American Scientific Affiliation. And Dr. Henry Morris was a member of that, but he came out of that and formed his own a Young-Earth Creationist group, ICR, the Institute for Creation Research, but originally part of the American Scientific Affiliation. This is Christian Scientists, which mainly today are Old Earth Creationists or Old Earth Evolutionists. And they would, I attended some of these meetings, and they would have field trips. And one of the meetings was in Denver, near Denver, Colorado. And we visited where the ice cores are kept, and you can see a number of them. There's room filled with ice cores. You had to wear a coat because everything was below freezing in there, so the ice cores wouldn't melt. And here we have one ice core, and if you look right down here, there's a black line, and that's where there was a volcanic eruption. And one of the most famous ones is in 79 AD, Vesuvius erupted, and it would leave ash there in the different ice core. And this is where you could count the ice cores to see how old it was, and then with carbon-14 dating you can match that and get accurate dating for these things. Then also at the conference there, different scientists came. There was Ronald Numbers, Dr. Ronald Numbers, who wrote the book The Creationists. And here you can see this book. This is the expanded version that has ID, intelligent design as well added. And he was there, so I interviewed him. And so I want you to hear his interview that I did with him.
We're here with Dr. Ronald Numbers, and maybe you can just tell your background of where you went to school.
Well, I was raised in a family of Seventh-day Adventist ministers, and I attended Seventh-day Adventist schools from first grade through college, graduating from what was then called Southern Missionary College in Tennessee. And as you may know, Seventh-day Adventists were the people who gave the world Young-Earth Creationism.
Okay, well, what got you interested in doing the book on the Creationists?
Well, I started out by looking at the history of Adventist involvement in the Creationist movement and wrote an article or two about that, and then was encouraged to do something broader. Wrote an article published in Science about that, and then I needed to get some money for a research leave, and I figured this would be a good topic, and I got it. So it was the money.
Okay, I was just wondering, were you a Young Earth Creationist at one time?
You bet. You bet. I was a Young Earth Creationist until sometime about 1968, maybe. I was a graduate student at Berkeley, and a friend of mine in neurophysiology and I went down to Stanford to hear a lecture on the fossil forests of Yellowstone, and became convinced that you couldn't explain them in under 30-some thousand years. So that night we both abandoned Young Earth Creationism.
Okay.
It's like a conversion experience, or a deconversion experience.
Okay. Any other future you see? Do you see Creationist moving toward Old Earth, or getting worse or better? Or?
Well, it's very hard to monitor what's going on because the press tends to focus on what's hot at the moment. So during the Dover trial over intelligent design, reporters would say, oh, I guess the Young Earth Creationism is disappearing. And I said, no, there's no evidence for that. Intelligent design just happens to be the activity that's in the courts right now. And sure enough, a few years later, Ken Ham and Answers in Genesis built this $27 million Creation Museum in northern Kentucky. And then people said, oh, that got a lot of interest. So maybe the Young Earth Creationists are really in the ascendancy. I mean, the truth is that nobody knows. There are no reliable polls. I'm convinced that a lot of the public doesn't even know the difference between intelligent design and creationism. And so it's anybody's guess what's going on today. I think both of them are doing reasonably well, but I don't have any statistics to support that.
Okay. Any other comments you'd like to make?
Well, I just say that according to some polls, just about 2/3 of Americans either accept some form of creationism or lean toward it, which would presumably include intelligent design as well. So there's a huge reservoir of support for non-evolutionary ideas in the United States.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
When I was a Young Earth Creationist, one of the key evidence that I saw was dinosaur and human footprints together in the Paluxy River in Glen Rose, Texas. And this seemed to be amazing to prove, Young Earth Creationist is right. And here's a picture that I took when I was there. Here's one of the supposed giant footprints uncovered by Carl Baugh, courtesy of Dr. Murray, who was helping there at the time. But it doesn't look like any footprint at all. And Glenn Cuban studied these so-called human footprints and saw that they were just eroded dinosaur tracks. They weren't human footprints at all. And I came across the Creation Evolution journal. It was small journals like this that they put out. And I looked at that and read that. and got many more and found the other side. Mainly when they're in Young-Earth Creationists, you don't hear the evidence against Young-Earth Creationists. And when I got a hold of this journal, I saw the evidence, and it seemed compelling that these were not human footprints. And then there are also the reports of the National Center of Science Education that continues with these different reports on creation, evolution, and what's going on in the schools. It's very helpful to see both sides because in fundamentalist schools you only hear one side, and the books are all one-sided. You never hear anything else on the other side. Another key Young-Earth Creationist view is that there was a worldwide flood. According to Ken Ham, it was around 2300 BC, when Egyptians have records going back to over 3000 BC with no worldwide flood. And here I am in Kentucky there to see the huge ark that Ken Ham has built. It's really something to see. Here we have the Grand Canyon, which Young-Earth Creationists will say was formed by the worldwide flood. Yet in the different layers, you find footprints of different animals, dinosaurs, and the different layers. So this is making it impossible for you to have the Grand Canyon to form in just one worldwide flood. And there's one book, here's the book here, it's Science and Earth History, The Evolution Creation Controversy by Arthur Strahler. This is from 1999. There could be some more earlier or newer ones. But this it covers all the different arguments of Young-Earth Creationists and shows how they are wrong scientifically. So if you want one book that covers it all there, that one does. In Philadelphia, I went to the Academy of Natural Science there, and it's the oldest natural science research institution and museum in the Americas, founded in 1812. And they had some field trips, and I thought maybe I'll go on a field trip looking for different fossils along the beach. And I went on that and was amazed to find that you can find these different fossils just along the beach. This was in Maryland, and you have Calvert Cliffs. And I was bitten by the fossil bug. And I became very interested in rocks and fossils. And I took courses there at the Academy of Natural Science. They were sponsored by the Wagner Free Institute of Science, founded in 1855. And it's a museum that still is preserved like it was in 1855. So if you want to see how the old museums look like, go to the Wagner Free Institute of Science. And they sponsored free courses, and so I would go to these courses. A number of them are held at the Academy of Natural Science, taught by a professor from the University of Pennsylvania. And since this was very helpful for me to learn about geology and paleontology, the history of geology, and one of them was about the Bone Wars, where you have Cope from Philadelphia, the Academy, and you had Marsh from Yale, a Peabody Museum, and there was a big rush out west there in Colorado, Wyoming, to find dinosaur bones. And there was big wars over the bones. Who could collect the most and bring them back to their museum, so their museum would be more famous, supposedly. Here's my drawing here of these different Triassic and Cretaceous rock, and it's in this valley here, Dinosaur Valley, that goes through, starts there a little bit in Maryland, through Pennsylvania and up into Connecticut, where you can find dinosaur footprints. And right above Philadelphia, the Limerick nuclear power plant, when they were digging for that, they found dinosaur footprints. And then Rikers Hill, I'm not sure exactly where it is on the map here, has a fossil site there in New Jersey where it has different layers of dinosaur footprints, animal tracks in the different layers. And this was convincing to me that a worldwide flood couldn't possibly have created these layers with these different footprints, not human footprints, but dinosaur and animal tracks. Even so fine as teardrops and other cracks in the rocks there. That showed that it must have dried before the next layer of rock was laid down, or it's more like mud. And then it continues all up into Connecticut, where they have a big dome museum, and we want to look at that. Dinosaur State Park there in Connecticut is right below Hartford, Connecticut. There's this big dome, and there's dinosaur footprints there at the bottom, and a walkway all around, so you can see the dinosaur footprints. And this is a pretty amazing site to visit if you're ever there in the area, preserving these dinosaur tracks. In 2001, there was the great debate, I call it, between Dr. Kent Hovind and myself. I had seen him on videos or on internet, and he claimed that nobody wanted to debate him, that if you debated him, you would be defeated, and nobody wanted to debate him because all his science here proves him right and the evolutionists wrong. Well, no one wanted to debate him, so I heard that he was going to be in the area in Pennsylvania, so I contacted him, and I set up a debate. And there's a link below. I'll probably put it in the notes there, where you can click and you can watch at least about the first hour, because my tape ran out after that. But here's one of the slides from the debate. This time I was an Old Earth Creationist, and even God using evolution to create life. And here's one of the slides here. This is about another great debate between Galileo and the church. The church was against Copernicus and his ideas of heliocentricity, which meant that the earth is going around the sun. And Galileo promoted this, and the church was upset. Even the reformers, Martin Luther, John Calvin, the Bible is against it. We can clearly see in the Bible that the earth rises and sets, that God stopped the sun in the book of Joshua, not stopping the earth. And so Martin Luther and John Calvin and others were against Copernicus and Galileo. Here, if you go to Answers in Genesis there are arguments we think creationists should not use. This is Ken Ham. These are arguments you should not use. I'll try to put the link. There's a more up-to-date link on this. And here are some of them. Darwin's deathbed conversion is false. And I heard this before, oh, Darwin converted, but this is false. Moon dust shows the universe is young. This is false. The earth axis was vertical before the flood. That's false. Flash frozen mammoths is false. Now these are all that Ken Ham says you shouldn't use. Plesiosaur netted in 1977 is false. That was big news back then. The second law of thermodynamics began at the fall is false. The Paluxy tracks proved human dinosaur coexistence is false. Mutations are never beneficial is false. No new species has ever been produced is false. Now this is what Ken Ham said on his website back in 2001. And I'll put a link to a more updated link that he has there today. It goes on to say on Answers in Genesis website, many of Carl Ball's creation evidence, sorry to say, Answers in Genesis thinks that he is well-meaning, but that he unfortunately uses a lot of material that is not sound scientifically. So we advise against relying on any evidence he provides unless supported by creationist organizations with reputations for biblical and scientific vigor. Unfortunately, there are talented creationist speakers with reasonably orthodox understanding of Genesis, example Kent Hovind, who continues to promote some of the Wyatt and Ball evidence despite being approached on the matter. So somehow they approached Kent Hovind and told him you shouldn't use these arguments. Ron Wyatt claimed he had found Noah's Ark. He claimed he had found the Ark of the Covenant. Claimed to found where the Israelites crossed the Red Sea. All sorts of things that he couldn't prove. And same thing with Ball's evidence there as well. Though it seemed that after this debate that I guess he must have confronted them and asked him to take his name down from it. And here we come to some more inadvisable and doubtful arguments. The water canopy theory is doubtful, that there was a lot of water above the earth and it collapsed, causing the flood, that there was no rain before the flood. The speed of light has decreased over time. No, it has not. Plate tectonics is false. No, we can see plate tectonics working. The hydroplate theory is doubtful. This is put forth by Walter Brown. There was lots of water in the earth that exploded upward and flooded the earth. Gold chains have been found in the coal. No, gospel in the stars. Here they thought if you look up in the stars, you can see the gospel and get saved. These are all doubtful and inadvisable to use by Ken Ham. And so I said to Ken Hovind, there should be a Ken Ham versus Kent Hovind debate, because all these things that Kent Hovind says are false or doubtful according to Ken Ham. Well, if you want to hear the reply, you can go to the video I have online about that. I continued on with 2 Timothy 3:16 and 17. All Scripture is inspired by God, literally God-breathed, and some think that means life-giving, and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. Notice it's good for instruction in righteousness. It's not good for instruction in science and biology, astronomy, geology. No, it's made for instruction in righteousness. And we shouldn't try to use it as a science book, but use it as a spiritual book. I ended the debate saying Galileo, his quote, "The Bible tells us how to go to heaven, not how the heavens go." going to back up a little bit. In 1994, I started the Institute for Biblical and Scientific Studies to show that the Bible and science are separate spheres. The Bible isn't a science book, and we shouldn't try to make it a science book. And so the Institute helps in discovering this and promoting this. And then in 2001, the debate with Dr. Kent Hovind. And then 2002, a company donated some land, and we made it into what I called Triassic Park, because there was a mine there where they were digging out Triassic rocks, and so I called it Triassic Park. That lasted a few years till a development group came in and wanted to buy it, so we sold it to them, and we used the money later on to make the Bible history exhibits. And that lasted for over 10 years, and then the lease ran out, and we had to close that. So in 2025, I mainly make ancient replicas of the key archaeological finds related to the Bible and sell them on Etsy to make some money. I'm retired, and that gives me some extra money to pay the bills. So that's my story. I've gone from an enthusiastic, die-hard, young Earth creationist to becoming an old Earth creationist, and then finally a theistic evolutionist, that God used evolution, and now today it may even be a naturalistic evolutionist. So that is my story, and you can disagree or agree with that. So we come to the end here, and these were some of the most important steps that led to me leaving Young Earth Creationist, becoming Old Earth and evolutionist. In other videos, I want to look at archaeology in the Bible. What can archaeology tell us about the Bible? Then also I want to look at the end of the world, eschatology. When will Jesus return? Is the end very near? And that's where I start out as a premillennialist, pre-trib rapture, and so excited about that, and then what happened afterwards. You can see more of my papers, Bible and Science paper, at academia.edu. My views on Genesis 1 there. You can always these can be downloaded for free, and other writings there and books. And the Institute's website is bibleandscience.com, where it has a lot more information there as well. And I want to thank everyone for listening, and you can share your comments. Do you agree or disagree? Is the earth young or is it old?